In this video, we are going to learn about two more identifiers with the help of which we can make variables in JavaScript. Okay, so before that, we have to understand one use case. Now, what if we have a variable whose value should not change during the execution of the program? So it clearly means that you want to make a variable to which if you have once declared a particular value, it should never be redeclared, it should never be reassigned. Once the value is given, it should remain as a fixed value. So can we do something like that in JavaScript? Yes, we can. For that, we have an identifier which is known as const. Okay, so with var, what used to happen is redeclaration and reassignment both are allowed. But with const, once we are going to give a particular value, this value is going to remain fixed. The reassignment and redeclaration both will not be allowed, which is why this value is not allowed to be changed during the execution of the program. So how do we do this? We can do this easily with the help of const. So declaring a variable using const creates a variable whose value cannot be changed further, right? So let's first of all take a quick demo of the same. Let's go back to Replit and we'll be making a new file for the same. So let's just do variable identifiers.js. Okay, so let's make variables with const identifiers. So I can say const a equals 5, right? Let me do a console.log of a. Let's see what is getting printed for the same. I can say node space variable identifiers.js. And as you can see, 5 easily gets printed. But what if I try to update the value to something else? What happens then? Let's check that as well. If I try to do a equals to 6 and then a console.log of a, let's check if it is giving any error. And yes, as you can see, there is a type error which says assignment to a constant variable. And this is coming at line number 6. So it is clearly telling you that at line number 6, you're trying to do something which is invalid. Correct? So with const, once you have given a value 5, this is going to remain 5 during the execution of the program. You're neither allowed to reassign the value nor allowed to redeclare the value as well. Let us also have a look on the redeclaration case. What if I was going to say const a equals to 7 and then a console.log of a? Even in that case, let us see. It is still giving me an error that identifier A has already been declared. So it is clearly telling you that at line number 9, you're trying to declare an identifier A which has already been declared above. So again, this is something invalid to do. So the overall conclusion for const is neither redeclaration nor reassignment. Both of them are not allowed. Okay. Now let's try to understand one more use case. Now let's say you have written a program containing 200 lines of code, right? So we are just imagining at that some line number 7, you must have declared a variable by using var. So maybe let's say you might have done something like var temp equals 10. Now since you have written so much of code at some random line number 150, you have again declared a variable using temp because you have forgotten that you have already used the same named variable. And this time you said var temp equals to hello. Now I have a question for you. At line number 200, if I'm trying to say console.log of temp, what is the value that is going to be printed? Is it going to be 10 or is it going to be hello? The correct answer is it is going to be hello, because in JavaScript, it's a line by line execution. So at line number 7, you have set it to be 10, but once the execution reaches line number 150, the value is now updated to hello. It's already a redeclaration which has happened over here. So at line 200, you were expecting the value to be 10, but the answer came out to be hello. And to add more problems to that, this value 10 is now thrown away from the memory. So you cannot recover that value as well. So just because of this human error due to redeclaration facility, we were able to lose one important value from the program. So to avoid these kind of cases, we have one more identifier which is known as let. We are going to make use of let this time instead of var. Okay, and let's see how it can easily solve our problem. Before we try to understand let us take a demo of the same problem on Replit so that you can understand better. So moving back to Replit, let me just comment all of this and let's talk about let identifier now. So in let, basically, first of all, let me give you the example of the problem with var. So folks, let's say you are having something like var a equals 5, and now at some random place again you have done a var a equals 6, because of you have already forgotten that you have already used the name a above, right? Now there will be no such error because var allows the redeclaration. So at line 50, if you were trying to do console.log of a, this a is going to print me the value of 6, but I was expecting it to be a 5, and 5 is this value is now already gone away from the memory, right? So to avoid these kind of cases, we have something which is known as let. So now let's talk about let. So whenever you declare a variable with let, it is not going to allow us to redeclare, but it is going to allow us to reassign. So if I say d equals to 8 now and then do a console.log of d, this value is going to be updated to 8. As you can see, this is now updated to 8. But if I try to redeclare it, let d equals 8 and then a console.log of d, then it is going to throw me an error. And what is going to be that error? It's going to be a syntax error that identifier d has already been declared. So what is the conclusion of let? That it doesn't allow you redeclaration, but it definitely allows you reassignment. So the overall conclusion is that var allows redeclaration as well as reassignment. Const neither allows redeclaration nor reassignment, and let allows you reassignment but not the redeclaration. So in most of your use cases, you should ideally be using let and const itself. And that is what we have to learn about let and const. We are going to learn about the 6 cases associated with var, let and const, redeclaration and reassignments respectively. So here's a quick table of how we want to go about it. So with var, redeclaration and reassignment both are allowed. Let's see that with the help of a demo. So moving back to Replit, if I say var, okay, if I say var a equals 5 and I do a console.log of a, that would clearly print me a 5. If I do a equals to 6 and then again a console.log of a, let's do that, console.log of a. Let's quickly check if that is correct or not. As you can see, we are also getting a 5, we are also getting a 6. So I can clearly say reassignment is allowed. Let us also have a look on the redeclaration scenario where a equals 7 and then a console.log of a. What happens now? Even in this case, 7 gets printed. So redeclaration is also allowed. I can say redeclaration is allowed. So in case of where reassignment and redeclaration both are allowed, which is what we can see over here as well. In case of let, redeclaration is not allowed, but reassignment is allowed. Let us see this case as well. So I'm going to comment all of this and check the same scenarios with let. I can say let b equals 6. Let's just console it as well to check the comparisons. After which I want to say b equals to 7 and I can say console.log of b. Let's see if this is working or not. As you can see, 7 is getting printed, which means reassignment is allowed. Reassignment is allowed. I should put a double slash over here to add it as a comment. Then let b equals 8 and console.log of b. Is this allowed or not? Let's check. And as you can see, this time it is throwing an error that identifier b has already been declared. You're trying to declare it over here, but it's already declared at line number 33. And with let, redeclaration is not allowed. So I can say redeclaration is not allowed. Okay. And that is what is written over here as well. With let, redeclaration won't be allowed, but reassignment would be allowed. Let's have a look on the 2 cases of const as well. Going back to the replit, let's comment everything from here and let's check all these cases. Const c equals 8 console.log of c. Just after that, c equals to 9 and then again a console.log of c. What would happen in this case? As you can see, it's a type error. Reassignment is not allowed. I can clearly say reassignment is not allowed. What happens in case of redeclaration finally? C equals to 10 console.log of c. Let's have a look on this one as well. And as you can see, it's a syntax error this time. That identifier C has already been declared. I can also show you by commenting this one. Let us now also check that. Even now, it's the same set of error that identifier C has already been declared. So redeclaration is also not allowed over here. Redeclaration is not allowed, which is what we saw over here as well. With const, neither redeclaration and nor reassignment, both are not allowed. We are now going to perform an activity with let and const identifiers. So first of all, let's get started with let. So here's a code snippet which is given to you, and you have to redeclare a new variable using let, which you can see clearly over here. So you have to identify what is going to be the output of this code. So pause the video right now and please check what is going to be the answer without executing the file first of all. All right, by now, if you have already evaluated, here's the correct answer. It is going to throw an error in this case. And why is that? Because redeclaration with let is not allowed. Let's quickly have a demo of the same on Replit. Let me just create a new file, activity4.js. I can say let greeting equals hello, and I can say console.log of greeting. Just after that, if I say let greeting equals hi, and then again console.log of greeting. So you're going to get an error at line number 4 that you have done something invalid. And how to execute this file? You can again copy the file path from here, paste it here, and please wait for this to get ready. And yes, as you can see, at line number 4, you got an error that identifier greeting has already been declared. So getting a syntax error is the correct answer over here. And as you can see that it's a syntax error over here as well. Let's go on to the next activity. Playing with const. Now here again you have a code snippet and you have to identify what is going to be the output of this code. So pause the video again and try to find out the answer. All right, so by now, if you have already calculated or evaluated your answers, the correct answer is again going to be an error, and this time it's going to be a type error. Assignment to a constant variable. And why did that happen? Because with const, even reassignment is not allowed. Even reassignment is not allowed. So let's quickly perform this one as well over here. I can say const greeting equals hello, and then greeting equals hi. So even if I don't console anything, the line number 8 itself is invalid, correct? If I try to just execute this file, you can see at line number 8 there is a type error which says assignment to a constant variable. So this is also going to throw us an error.